In local matters, we are just hours away from one of the most anticipated debates ahead of this year's midterm elections. In Texas tonight, Republican Senator Ted Cruz will debate his opponent, Democrat and current Congressman Beto O'Rourke. This is the second time the two challengers will face off.
Yesterday, President Trump made good on his earlier promise to hold a major rally for Senator Cruz, but it won't be the biggest stadium in Texas, like he said. Instead, on Monday, he'll be at the NGR Arena in Houston, which seats 8,000 people. So it's not bad, right? Yeah. That's about 1/10 of the amount of the people in the largest stadium in Texas, though. For more on what we can expect from tonight's debate, political editor at the Texas Tribune, Aman Batheja. Thank you, Aman. Joins us now from Austin. So, Aman, President Trump says that Ted Cruz has his complete and total endorsement. How is the president factoring into this race, though?
It's a bit of a double-edged sword for Cruz. Before he ran for president, he had campaigned and, created an image in Texas of being a conservative fighter who never backs down. And then he had this presidential race with Donald Trump where Trump insulted his family, and Cruz said he wasn't going to endorse Trump, and then he changed his mind and did. And so it kind of undermined his image in Texas. And so Cruz has arguably been trying to rebuild that image over the last 2 years. Trump coming to Texas will galvanize the Republican base, but it will also remind some voters about that awkward history between them.
All right, so let's talk about tonight's debate. The first debate between the two focused entirely on domestic policy. What will tonight's debate be about?
Tonight will be about domestic and foreign policy. The big kind of what everyone's going to be looking for tonight is, does Beto O'Rourke attack Cruz like some Democrats have been hoping he would? Until now, O'Rourke has been running a very positive campaign. He's been avoiding attacking Cruz too often. Meanwhile, Cruz has been hammering O'Rourke with millions in negative ads. So O'Rourke has talked recently about wanting to set a sharper contrast between him and Cruz, and so tonight we're going to see if that actually happens.
Well, speaking of millions, Beto O'Rourke just announced that he broke a record for fundraising. He raised $38 million in the third quarter of the year, 3 times what Senator Cruz was able to raise in the same time span. How was he able to do that?
O'Rourke has become a celebrity in Texas and nationally, and it's been remarkable. When he first announced he was going to run for Senate a couple years ago, or that he was thinking of running, it barely registered in the political circles in Texas. Everyone just thought he was going to be like an afterthought. He's really built up a campaign that's inspired liberals and moderates, and he's just shown that he's got charisma and that he's really great public speaker. And so he's inspired people both in Texas and around the country, and that's just motivate people to give him lots of money. There's also a sentiment here of, people that like Cruz in Texas, they like him. People that don't like him in Texas really don't like him. And so there is a motivation of anti-Cruz sentiment that's also helping push up O'Rourke's numbers.
And as you know, Senator Ted Cruz sits on the Senate Judiciary Committee. He's been a strong defender of Justice Brett Kavanaugh all along. Conversely, O'Rourke says he wouldn't have supported Kavanaugh's confirmation if he were in the Senate. We know that Republicans have said that this whole confirmation process has galvanized their base. Democrats are saying much the same. They're saying that a lot more women, suburban women, are going to come out and vote in protest of what they saw happen over the course of those 3 weeks or so. So what's been the response to Kavanaugh's confirmation with voters in Texas specifically, and how will it impact this race?
I think what's going to be key here is those suburban areas where you happen to actually have, in Houston and Dallas in particular, you have some U.S. House races that are very hot right now that Democrats are trying to unseat incumbents. And in some of these races, you have female candidates. The Republican statewide ballot is almost entirely male. On the Democrat side, it's a lot more even men and women. And so I think Democrats are hoping that the Kavanaugh issue will turn out women voters for them. But we have also seen, like we've seen the rest of the country, Republicans are galvanized by what happened in that situation with Kavanaugh as well.
Aman, I'm really curious about Ted Cruz's strategy over the course of the last couple of months as Beto O'Rourke has raised enormous amounts of money. He has always positioned himself as an outsider in terms of Washington politics, right? And yet, over the course of the last couple of months, it seems that he shifted a little where he is now reliant on the national party, the RNC, to help him, including President Trump, right? President Trump saying at one point that he was going to come out and hold a big rally for Cruz. Is that because he feels the heat and that potentially, even though the numbers don't show it now, that potentially Beto O'Rourke could win this thing?
Right now, it feels unlikely that O'Rourke is going to win. Just the polls show him as, high single digits behind Cruz. And just in general, O'Rourke is counting on voters turning out that haven't turned out in past elections.
But that's what they said in 2016 for Trump.
I think what Aman brought up sort of when we first started talking about the changing relationship between Trump and Cruz is part of what you're describing, that, it's great to be an outsider until the ultimate outsider becomes the president. Now, how do you become the outsider? One of the things that sort of fueled Cruz was that he wasn't liked very much. He wasn't liked by Democrats and he wasn't liked by members of his own party. But now you have President Trump, who's sort of taking that place. So how does Cruz define who he is and what his personality is? It's not the same draw as it was before.
Right, and Cruz is, ever since the presidential race, Cruz has been kind of in Trump's shadow, which is why next week's rally is kind of a double-edged sword, like I said, for him. It helps motivate the base, but it also reminds people that he is in Trump's shadow always. I feel like with the money situation that you asked about, Cruz has struggled to raise money this whole cycle, and so he has had to rely more on, establishment donors rather than, small donors like O'Rourke has, which is a slight shift from his first Senate race where, he often kind of compared how much his opponents was getting from lobbyists versus how much he was getting from small donors. So, I mean, it's kind of a common thing you see when someone becomes kind of the establishment, their funding sources often shift.
All right. Aman Batheja, thank you very much, my friend. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And you can watch tonight's debate between Cruz and O'Rourke at 9 p.m. Eastern on CBSN. It is hosted by our CBSN Antonio affiliate, Ken's TV, and we'll be streaming it live.